Today is March 29th, 2022, and I got my next new conundrum. I was just getting ready to start a little more serious about starting to plank here, and I got a problem up here again. If you look at where the chine meets the keel here, and this is where the rabbit, of course, is supposed to go. And I got a little bit notched out here. I just used a multi-tool here to kind of get this notched out initially to kind of get a feel for what I wanted to do here. In the actual chine mark, it would come something like this. That should be the point of the chine, the outside point of the chine. You can see I've done a little bit of hacking here with the power plane in addition to the multi-tool. But now here's the problem. If you have the first piece of the planking laying here, there's no way to get it into the keel short of removing all this. Well, then there isn't a whole lot of sense in even having these chine pieces in here. I don't know why this is the way it is. I seem to recall George talking about when you're laying out the rabbit here to make it consistent, and then if you need to, you can cut a little bit off the end of the planking when it goes on to make it fit in there a little better, as opposed to always going into the chine notch itself. But maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. But anyway, the only way this is going to work with this thick of planking, with 2x planking, is to cut into here. Now I could put my planking on here, and this is going to be hard to hold the camera in and show you this at the same time, but I could kind of taper this like I did this here. The only problem with that is that it's going to wind up still extending out. It would extend way out like that, and then you're way past the point where you should be. So really the only way to do it is to notch into here. I don't see any other options. I don't want to cut this completely out, but I'm going to have to probably take this first 1.5 inches out of here to make this fall into where I want to do. And then really the only good way to do that I can see is going to be to use my turbo plane on a grinder, to remove lots of material fairly rapidly. Otherwise I'm going to be poking at this for the rest of my life. It'll never get done. Now, of course, this is going to be and all this needs to come off down here too. All this needs to come off, and these here need to come off. So that, yeah, there's a lot that needs to come off in here. And I think I'm just going to have to hack it off with the turbo plane. Now, once you get past, this first few stations here on the bow, well, then it's not so bad. And then you don't have nearly as much to take off. And of course, a power plane up here will work a lot better, but there's a lot of material that needs to come off here to get that planking to lay in here. And of course this notch then will get notched way out here, and then all these subsequent notches too, because this whole thing up here is going to be that way. So all of this is going to have to be notched, probably from something like about here all the way in, and that's a lot of material to take out. It's not going to be just a little 2-inch notch. So now, I don't have to do it all at once. I don't have to do all the way up the bow where all the planking is going to go at once. I can once I get this started, I can keep on working. And then once I'm up here too, I won't have this in the way, so it'll make it a little easier too. I won't have to be cutting all this out. But that's a conundrum, and I don't know why it happened. I don't recall George talking about that, and I don't know why I didn't think about that when I was doing this chine. I don't know. I thought everything was exactly the way it was supposed to be. Of according to what he said in the book. Now, maybe most boats have more, you know, a steeper curve up here, you know, more, I don't know what you call it, bulbous, but not such a fine point up here. And maybe, and then of course that would make it easier then because they'd go under a steeper angle. But this real fine angle here, it's really gonna mean I really got to notch in there deeply. And maybe that's all there is to it. That's just what you have to do. But it seems odd that, yeah, I don't know. But I got to keep it so that, you know, when the next layer of planking goes on top, that they're all going to sit flush with each other. You can't have one, you know, notched out, the next one notched in. Well, I suppose you could to a certain extent. But then the next problem is I was planning on putting plywood over this too, so this notch even needs to go deeper to get the plywood on there. So I am going to take the turbo plane to it and start hacking, and then probably go to a sander, whether it's a flap disc or a bigger 7-inch sanding disc to try to get it a little closer. And then as for the chine notch, or the rabbet itself there in the chine, yeah, I've been using a variety of things. The circular saw, I can't get the right angle on that, so it's been the oscillating tool and a couple of different planers, and of course chisel. And yeah, like I said, once you get it started, it might be easier. But that's going to mean, I think, that once I get it started to where it's in there properly, I need to continue going up a ways ahead of where the planking is going to go, so that I got a area to work. Because once the plank goes in, it's going to block the area above it to get a tool in there. It'd be easier if you did, you know, say a foot above the next plank or whatever, so you could get in there a little easier. But yeah, I think it's going to be a combination of all the above, and I hope I don't butcher it too bad. Of course, like George says, you know, epoxy is the wood butcher's friend. So, which here's a good case in point. You come back here, and I don't know if you can see this on the video. There's just a little bit of this frame wasn't quite out as far as I wanted it. It was just a little bit cupped in here, and so I'm using a little bit of thickened epoxy here to bring this out just a 1/4 inch or so. And I'll need to put another layer on here too, but to bring this out. And yeah, it wouldn't hurt anything. It's simply going to be a matter of appearance, of looks. You know, I kind of flip between, oh, it's not going to hurt anything and nobody's going to notice unless you're right up there looking alongside lining up alongside the hull. And the only time you'd see it would probably be when it's out of the water. But of course you're going to walk by it every day, so I don't know. I need to not be so fussy. This isn't one of those boats like, you know, one of those classic beautiful wood boats. It's just not going to be what it is. More of a workboat figure in the construction, and that's the way George intended these boats to be built. But still, you don't want it to be overly nasty. But anyway, I'm going to get the turbo plane out and see how much wood I can destroy, and I'll let you know how it goes.